This episode of Simple Civics EdTalks is sponsored by InformEdSC.org, South Carolina's most comprehensive and user-friendly nonpartisan data center for critical information about students, teachers, achievement, and funding for public education. Bringing together district and state-level data, InformEdSC.org is a one-stop shop for researchers and champions to advance knowledge and inform action. InformEdSC.org is a special project of Public Education Partners, Greenville County. Greenville County Schools hires hundreds of new teachers each year, and not all of them have taken the traditional pathway into the classroom through a teacher preparation program in college. I'm Catherine Schumacher of Public Education Partners, and on today's Simple Civics EdTalks, we will be learning more about GATE, the Greenville Alternative Teacher Education Program, which celebrates its 10th anniversary this year. Originally designed by the district in partnership with Public Education Partners to address critical needs for science and math teachers, GATE has since grown into one of the most dynamic and successful sources for new teachers in our community across a range of subject areas. I'm joined for this conversation by Dr. Candice Moore, who serves as the GATE Program Director. Well, Candice, thank you so much for being here with me today to talk about the GATE program. Such an exciting milestone that it's hitting this year, and I just am really excited for our listeners to have an opportunity to learn about it and hear about the terrific work that you've done leading it over the last several years. So start with basic history of the GATE program, and it's, as I've said before, it's such a great example of the way that Public Education Partners and the districts can work together when it works when it works perfectly. So why don't you tell us about sort of the origin story of GATE?
Yeah. GATE, as you said, started as a collaboration between Greenville County Schools and Public Education Partners. Before GATE began, in the 2016-17 school year, the district was facing persistent shortages, specifically in the areas of math and science. Traditional pipelines were not meeting the demand, so rather than continuing to compete with other districts for a shrinking pool, district and community leaders started asking a different question, which was, how do we build our own pipeline?
Grow your own.
Yeah, absolutely. And the solution was GATE, district-embedded alternative certification pathway, in which the district provides the classroom and instructional context and for candidates wanting to begin a career in education. And during those early years, we worked really closely with Public Education Partners as they provided the external support through funding and really building community credibility as well. I think one thing that makes GATE compelling, both in terms of how it started and what it has become, is that it's a solution that wasn't outsourced. It really was
homegrown.
Co-created and supported in very big ways by PEP at the outset.
We were really excited, and I, kind of preparing for this conversation and just sort of realizing that it was 10 years. That hadn't occurred to me yet.
It went by so fast.
I know, it went by so fast. We raised almost $500,000 from some really remarkable funders, and I'm give a couple shout out to some of them. Duke Energy was really the big sort of lead funder that really stepped up. Daniel Mickle Foundation and Floor, and some individual funders as well. And it really was a perfect example of how PEP kind of connects dots. There are other alternative certification pathways, and GATE is different. What's different about GATE and the model?
A big thing is the district embedded design. So that's the first thing that really comes to mind.
And it was the first one that was in a district, right?
Yes.
So it was really groundbreaking in that regard.
Yes, the first district embedded alternative certification program in the state. So unlike many alternative pathways that are for-profit national models or those that are university-led, GATE is designed and executed inside Greenville County Schools. So coursework, coaching, evaluation, everything is directly tied to district expectations. Something else that sets GATE apart is the cohort and community model. By design, GATE utilizes a cohort model, so participants move through the program together. So not only does that reduce isolation, which is often an expressed challenge of alternatively certified teachers.
And I think do teachers generally, right? It can
Yes.
be really stressful that first phase.
100%.
Yeah.
So the cohort itself provides an added layer of support for GATE teachers. And then I think the biggest program design feature that sets GATE apart is the coaching and performance alignment model that we use. So each GATE teacher has a multi-member team that is designed to ensure their support and success. The team utilizes school-based members, including an administrator, instructional coach, a mentor, and also non-school based members, including a GATE coach and a representative from the GATE leadership team. So candidates are not left to just figure out how to teach on their own. They're receiving wraparound support designed to help them experience success from the outset, because we know having strong supported teachers in the classroom directly contributes to positive student outcomes, which is the goal in everything that we
Everything
do.
that Greenville County Schools does. I think it's so interesting because, we know that induction teachers, if you're graduating from from Clemson or Carolina or USC Upstate or any of these other programs, you've had that student teaching time and you've had that kind of opportunity to get feedback from an experienced teacher before you even get hired, really. And so this is designed to sort of meet that gap for these folks that are coming in straight from industry or who are coming in without that kind of education training background.
Yes.
I think it's so interesting. So lots of success stories, and we're going to end with a lot of the great success stories. But what have been some of the challenges? Like, what are the things that, as the program has grown and evolved, that it's kind of bumped up against that you've had to evolve in real time?
Yeah. In full transparency, there is sometimes some skepticism around alternative certification as a credible pathway into teaching. Even the term alternative, I think, carries a connotation that is sometimes interpreted as lesser than.
Yeah.
So we've worked really hard to educate stakeholders, both inside and outside the district, to reframe this perspective and way of thinking. Alternative certification is not a shortcut.
It's very rigorous.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just a different on-ramp with the same high expectations as a traditional pathway. Another challenge, and maybe the bigger challenge, has been the growth that GATE has experienced. And, growth sometimes creates strain.
Yeah.
So
I know how many GATE teachers you've been overseeing and helping
yes,
several
yes.
years, you and your team.
So, more candidates means more everything, more mentors, more evaluators, more funding, more coaches. So, what was once sustainable with a part time director and 10 hourly GATE
Yeah.
coaches requires a lot more hands on deck
Right.
now to continue that. It's a great problem to have,
Yeah.
but it has definitely required us to think creatively and strategically about how we preserve quality while scaling to meet the needs of the district.
Yeah, it's so interesting. So when the program started, it was really started to focus on math and science. Those were sort of the highest need areas for the district in terms of finding qualified candidates. And so I remember that first cohort, it was like 10 folks, I think, or something like
Yes,
that.
yep.
And, each year you kind of added a category because the need continues to grow. I mean, I think in Greenville, we're really lucky and we are a district where people want to work. But for some of these specific areas, there is ongoing need. So talk about the decision behind expanding GATE and why do we continue to sort of grow it both here in Greenville and then, what are we seeing statewide in this sort of alternative pathway landscape?
Yeah, so the decision to expand, it was really made in conjunction with district leadership, specifically in human resources. GATE exists to be responsive to the hiring needs of the district. So each year we look at workforce gaps, and from there we respond accordingly. So far, GATE has been able to offset the hiring needs of the district in the hardest to fill content and geographic areas. And if we look at it even a little more broadly, while GATE started as a certification pathway to meet the needs of the district, it's really developed into workforce development strategy
Yeah.
that really impacts the community as a whole. But a big determining factor in continuing the expansion of GATE is the success that we've experienced both in terms of community interest. So word of mouth continues to be our greatest recruitment strategy. We have about 50 times the number of applicants now that we did 10 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, so more interest, more applicants. That means there's more talent out there that can be tapped into. So that was a big factor in helping us make that decision. Another factor in expansion, and perhaps one of the bigger ones, is our retention rate. One criticism of alternative certification pathways as a whole is they're considered easy in, easy out options, which can contribute to high attrition. But GATE has consistently maintained retention rates higher than the state and comparable to those in traditional pathways. So just over the past couple of years, well over 200 teachers have entered the profession through GATE, and we're currently retaining right at 90% of those.
Yeah, which is great.
So the retention, points to a model that's working, and that has certainly contributed to the continued expansion of the program.
If someone is interested in becoming a GATE teacher, talk a little bit just about the process, what happens? Because I think that is something that is interesting. If I'm an accountant, for example, and I decide, you know what, I've always wanted to be a teacher. Maybe retirement is somewhere in my future, in the near future, and I want to become a math teacher. What do I have to do? What is that pathway? What does that journey look like?
So we are continuously offering information sessions. If someone's interested in becoming a teacher through the GATE program, I would highly recommend starting there. Those information sessions are listed on our website.
Yep.
And
we'll link those, and we'll link that in the show notes, so
fabulous.
Folks can check it out. Yep.
Yes. And those take place via Zoom. So it's accessible if you are still, working full time in another area. And then what we look for is at least a bachelor's degree in a related field. And there is a GPA requirement of 2.5 or above. If you have higher degrees, masters, we have some people who have doctorates apply to GATE as well. We can definitely use those transcripts as well to evaluate eligibility. And then from there, we determine what you would be eligible to teach. And you do an interview, district screening interview. Once we determine eligibility, we'll issue a statement of eligibility, which is basically your ticket to start applying to vacancies in the district.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you get kind of pre-screened, and then you just you throw you go into the mix with all of the other applicants for specific positions across the district.
Yes. So eligibility for the program is determined first, and then you secure a teaching position.
So then you get hired, and so then you become part of the cohort.
Yes.
And you go through the summer academy. So there's this, but talk a little bit about summer academy.
So every summer we have a 3-week institute. It's a fast and furious crash course in all things education. It is intense. And I tell candidates, we're going to give you just enough to get you nice and overwhelmed and then send you into the classroom.
Which is standard practice for teaching generally, I feel like.
It is, unfortunately, standard practice.
Yeah.
But along with that, we also send in support.
Right.
So we send in that support to help you apply the things that we go over in the institute. And then all throughout your first 2 years in the program, we circle back and we go deeper in seminars and other coursework. So it really is, your learning really does spiral from beginning to end.
In the good way. Spiral in the good way.
Spiral in a good way. Yeah. Thank you for noting that distinction. Absolutely.
That's so interesting. So, I know you've got some great success stories. I'd love, we always love to end these conversations on sort of a high note. So talk some about some of the great teachers that, maybe from that first cohort, but certainly you've had some incredible school, not just teachers, not just classroom teachers, but leaders emerge out of the GATE program. Tell a few of their stories.
Yeah, this is a fun one. And honestly, there's so many.
Yeah.
It is hard to choose. The ones that immediately come to mind are those that highlight the individual victories of GATE teachers and showcase the value that they bring to the classroom and to the profession. We've had several teachers from those early cohorts who have gone on to leadership positions. Jasmine Ford is from the very first cohort. is currently a technology facilitator in the district. Beth Spence is an assistant principal at Ralph Chandler. Emily Tyler from a very early cohort. She's gone on to receive her doctorate. So lots of strong leadership coming through the GATE program. Several of our teachers have received Teacher of the Year at their schools, which is a recognition that reflects the respect and value that these GATE teachers have in their own school community, which is huge. 2 years ago, Anne Fagala became the first GATE teacher to receive National Board Certification.
Oh, which is a big deal. Yeah.
Huge milestone
Yeah.
in her professional journey and just the profession in general. It really is a huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
And then this past year, John Moldovan was recognized as the first-year Teacher of the Year.
Yeah.
And he's been selected as a top 5 finalist
Oh, that's amazing.
in the state. So that's a super impressive accomplishment that highlights his strong start and dedication to excellence in the classroom.
Yeah, that was a special treat because PEP sponsors, we always do the sponsor for those first-year teacher awards. We call them our first-class teacher awards. So that was like the perfect storm, like the Venn diagram of things that we do. I just think GATE, it's so interesting. And the narrative about GATE, it also pushes back on this idea that people don't want to become teachers. And I think one of the great things about the program is that it has been such a positive pathway for folks who feel that call. It's a calling, it's also a profession. And so what's beautiful about GATE is it creates all that professional support for the people who feel that call. You're a superstar. I know how hard you work and how much you deeply care about this program, and your leadership has really evolved it. So thank you on behalf of the community and on the behalf of, I'm a parent who my kiddos have had GATE trained teachers during their journey through Greenville County schools.
Mine too.
I know, right? It's so great. Thank you, Candice, for joining us today and for this conversation, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Simple Civics EdTalks is a joint project of Greater Good Greenville, Greenville First Steps, and public education partners Greenville County.
Hi, Simple Civics Greenville County listeners, Nathaniel here. If you've made it this far, then we think you'll really love our newsletter. Sign up for bonus content, updates, and more right in your inbox. Look for the link in the description that says newsletter to sign up, or visit us at simplecivicsgreenvillecounty.org. Find the link in the menu that says newsletter and sign up there. We'll see you again next week.